Hey everybody, it's Steph Mischuk with KillerSites.com. Here it is, KillerSites.com. In this video, I want to give you a quick tour of cPanel 2012. This version just came out very recently. I'm recording this in mid-April 2012. If you don't know, and I'm assuming that you don't know, cPanel is a user interface, a control panel that a lot of hosting companies use. They provide it for you so that you can go in there and do basic administration task for your website. So you get to the cPanel control panel by going to your domain name, and in this case, this is an old site. I just left up a failed project or a project I abandoned called Idea 22. Anyway, so how do you get to cPanel if you have cPanel installed? And a lot of you do, by the way. You just add :2082, and that will launch this panel right here. If you're watching this a few years from now and cPanel is updated and you're watching this video, it's going to look similar to this. It may have different color scheme and so on, but it's going to work the same way because I've been using cPanel for a long time now, and though they change things here and there, this is pretty much what it looks like. So anyway, so what you do is you put in the username and the password provided to you by your hosting company, and that will allow you to log in. So I'm going to log in. So here's the default cPanel look and feel. And we're just going to go over a couple quick things that I think some of you will find interesting. And that's it. So anyway, so welcome new user. You're probably going to see this now. There's these getting started wizards, and I'm just going to click and say no for now, since I'm going to show you here. So what cPanel allows you to do, allows you to basically make all kinds of changes to your website, and in terms of the hosting. So you could check your stats, you could set up stats, you could add databases, you could add FTP access, all kinds of different things. So I'm just going to do a couple of basic things. So first one I want to look at is statistics. So let's scroll down here. And again, depending on how your hosting company has configured cPanel, it may be organized in a slightly different way, but it's pretty much the same. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go down to Webstats. Now this is a very common Webstats program that's built in to cPanel, and it's pretty good. So let's take a look at that real quickly, and I'll show you how to interpret some of the statistics. I'm assuming for this video, as you may have guessed, that you're pretty new to the whole web hosting thing. And so if you're already a pro at hosting a website, this may be a bit too basic for you. That said, let's go in, let's click in to the Webstats and take a look. Now you have to understand, this is an older site, so the traffic is pretty small because it's basically dead. So far in April, you can see right at the top, we've had 8,596 unique visitors and 13,000 visits and 68,000 and change in terms of page views and 130,000 hits out. And bandwidth, we used up 825 gigs of data. Really? Wow. 825 gigs of data so far this month, which surprises me actually. It's almost a terabyte of data, and we're only halfway through the months. That's pretty good. Yeah, fortunately, Killer Sites, we have a couple of dedicated servers, so that doesn't come close to hitting our bandwidth limits. But anyway, this is interesting to look at. So let's let me minimize this so you can see the whole thing. All right, so here's the Webstats view for the site Idea 22. So we went over these things. What I'm going to do is I want to discuss the distinction between unique visitors, number of visits, and pages and hits. A lot of people may not know the difference, so let's look at that. Unique visitors is a measure of a unique visitor hitting your site. A unique visitor is somebody who hasn't been to your site within the last, it's an hour or last 2 hours. Whereas visits, it's the number of total visits to your site. So if somebody comes back to your site within an hour or 2 hours, that will register as a visit, but not as a unique visit. A unique visit is somebody who hasn't been to your site in at least an hour or so. So it's not a perfect measure of the actual number of real people coming to your site, but it gives you a better idea. As you can see, 60% of the unique visitors come back within that time frame. I have to check. It used to be an hour, and they may have extended to 2 hours, but it's really not that important in a big picture, whether it's 1 or 2 hours or whatnot. All you got to know is that these are fairly unique individuals, and I say fairly because if somebody comes back in the month twice, it will be registered as a new unique visitor, but that's how the entire web thing works anyway. So that's why when you hear big statistics about how many visitors are coming to a site and so on, you have to take that with a grain of salt because of, it's an imperfect system of tracking people like that. It's the nature of the internet, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. Anyway, so now you know the difference between unique visitors and number of visits. Pages, this is actually a fairly good indicator because it tells you how many actual pages are being loaded up in your site. Now, these are monthly statistics, right? So this is for the month of April. Although so far we're only on the 13th of April, so we're not even halfway through the month. So far, almost 69,000 pages on this site have been viewed, and they have been viewed by 8,596 unique visitors. Although I suspect several of these people may have come back more than once in a day, or especially in the month. So there may be only 5,000 or 6,000 real unique individuals. It's very hard to judge. Hits is an interesting thing. It's almost a totally irrelevant statistic and should be ignored. And the reason that is because hits is short for server hits. Server, of course, references the web server. And a hit can be anything that a browser requests from a web page. So what does that mean? When a web browser goes to a site, so let's say you go to killersites.com, the web browser basically says, hey, I want to see the home page of killersites.com. Let me back up. Let me make it simple. Let me make it a little bit simpler. Let's say we get to Killer Sites and we want to go the web designer page. So we go web designer. So this is the Killer Sites roadmaps web-designer.php. This is the actual page, web-designer.php. So when I clicked on that link, that sent me to this page, I basically sent a message to the server that's holding Killer Sites, say, send me the web-designer page.php page. That's called a request. This is basic web internet theory here. It's important to understand though. So when you send that request, the server, like a server in a restaurant, says, okay, send this guy, that's us surfing the web, send the guy the page. Now the page itself contains all kinds of things. It contains CSS files, 1 or 2. It contains some JavaScript. It contains all of these images. Each of these images, all these different images. Now, the page itself actually doesn't contain it like a Word document, or a Photoshop document might contain an image. It actually just points to these images. But anyway, that's all about web design HTML, so I'm not going to go down that anymore. What you got to take away from this part is basically when you load a page up, each and every single image in that page is considered a server hit. Every icon, every image, every CSS file associated with the page, every JavaScript file that may be associated with the page, these are all server hits. So this page, even though it's one page, let's see, we got one image, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 images, 9 images, 10 images. That's 10 hits right there, right? Because you got 10 images. Then the page itself is a hit. The web-designer.php, that's a hit. So that's 11 hits. I know there's at least one CSS file, so that's 12 hits. There's a JavaScript file, that's 13 hits. There's a second JavaScript file, that's 14 hits. So there's one page, when it's requested by a single guy, it's loaded up, that is actually registering 13 hits. One page is 13 hits. Now on another page, if I go to this page here, which is a different page, it's got a different number of icons. This will register maybe 15 hits. So you're starting to get the picture. Hits are very much an irrelevant data point. You shouldn't be paying attention to really, because the hits count will really be affected by the page itself. So what you want to pay attention to is unique visitors, visits, and pages. That's pretty much it. Anyway, I'm going to get back into the cPanel video, I guess in part 2. There's a lot more about statistics and web statistics here. What you should take away, we'll just end it off here, is that Webstats is a pretty capable web stats program. If you have cPanel backing up your website, that depends on your hosting company, this will come with. So it's pretty good, and it gives you all kinds of data, where the traffic's coming from. See, this site for some reason gets a lot of traffic from Russia and Ukraine, which kind of surprises me, to be totally honest with you. But anyway, this is an old site. I haven't looked at it in years, really. And it gives you, detailed information about where people are going in the site, what pages. It tells you what operating systems are visiting the site. You can see, in this case, Windows is 75% of traffic. So that tells you, okay, I got to work on making sure the site looks good in Windows. It tells you what browsers people are using, etc., etc. How much? See, Google's sending 1,000 people so far this month. So that probably means that Google is sending as much as 3,000 visits a month. Considering that the site has not been updated in many years, that's pretty funny. And even tells you the key phrases that people are using to get to the site. So look at that, all the phishing lures, and that's funny. In part 2, I will go into more detail about cPanel and how cPanel works. And I hope you enjoyed this video.